New crop of players coming in with the NFL draft being done and dusted. A lot of quarterbacks in there now, some better than others, obviously. Let's talk a little bit about, because we're all looking at you guys. You run this fantasy football show. You're semi-stable geniuses. You've been doing this for a while. I think you guys know what you're talking about. Who are some of the guys that have been drafted this year who you think are going to be impact players and they're going to be drafted high?
Drafted high, I think probably a first round pick. But I just don't. I can go either way. It's Bijan Robinson. I think he's just rookie running back. If you're the top rookie running back at this point, you're getting drafted in the first round of most fantasy drafts. It's just kind of the way that it's developed. There's just not a ton. Even, I mean, you got guys like Jonathan Taylor who had a fantasy year for the record books, and then last year was, for all intents and purposes, a dud. You can't really trust him. So I think he's going to be a really high pick. He's probably, in my opinion, the highest drafted rookie on ADP by a long shot. I could go back and forth on him. I either think he's going to get muddled in the backfield, mired in the mess that is Atlanta, or just by sheer volume, he's going to get the points you need because Atlanta's just going to start him from the jump, and he's just going to be a workhorse back for them. So that I don't really see a middle ground there. I really see him either being like a third, fourth stringer that gets in there on third downs and you're frustrated that you drafted this guy in the first round, or he proves you right and he's a solid, stable guy for you all year.
I don't know. I mean, like, I know Tyler Algier had a really good rookie season, but they don't owe him anything. I think it was a day 3 pick. Bijan Robinson drafted in the top 10. I think they're gonna run him pretty hard. I think Arthur Smith has done a great job coaching up running backs. I think he's gonna get volume, and at worst case, he'll be like a guy who, if you're playing in PPR, he's gonna get you numbers just off receptions alone. But he is like, his ADP is crazy right now. It is. I'm seeing these like RB2 right now, and that's like, I don't know.
Are we believing that hype though?
He's the real deal. I don't know if
I think he's for real. I mean, if you watched him at all at Texas, I mean, I'm just a big college football fan in general, and I mean, you watch him, the kid can play. I mean,
my comments have nothing to do with him as a player and everything to do with the Falcons as an organization. Like, as a player, he's got everything you need. It's whether the Falcons use him properly is where his balance is.
You have the offensive line to keep him clean too, and I don't know if the Falcons quite have that yet. And who do they have as QB1 this year? They're going to ride with Desmond Ridder, right?
Yeah, Desmond Ridder.
For sure. That's
Danny Dimes, big fan of the pod.
Danny Dimes, he's in it. Yeah, I'm just curious because I'm looking at the Falcons roster right now, and I know we're talking fantasy, but here's the thing: is they are good at like the top of their position, and then after that, everything drops off. So after Drake London, who? After Kyle Pitts, and then when we get through like the first line, yeah, Kyle Pitts was one of my guys last year, and I wanted to throw him off a cliff. But you look at
that. I'm pretty sure fantasy managers all over the world.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota has to lock his doors at night because of me. But you look at that offensive line too, and like on the surface, pretty good. After that, ooh. So, and I don't know if everyone is necessarily sold on Desmond Ridder. I think if push comes to shove and they're in the top 2 or 3, they're drafting Caleb Williams, and Desmond Ridder gets to carry someone's luggage in 2 years.
I'm not as concerned about that because, like, Arthur Smith, like, he schemes up run game pretty well. The Titans didn't. I don't think the Titans had that great of an offensive line when he was there. And Derrick Henry is obviously built different, but like, I think Bijan Robinson in a different way is kind of built different. Like, he's not the size of Derrick Henry, but he's got elite movement skills. The contact balance, the missed tackles, like it's what he specializes in. I have no doubt that the scheme alone, because they run a lot of like tight end heavy H-back heavy, run game. I don't think it really matters who the quarterback is going to be. I'm not as high on Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Obviously, Kyle Pitts fucked me last year. But I don't. I think Bijan Robinson is just gonna. I think he's gonna easily be a top 10 running back fantasy. Like I think if everything goes as planned, but he has unlimited potential. So he could be RB1.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't hate that one. Mine is actually another running back, Jahmyr Gibbs. He is another guy. I think a lot of this is going to be part situational. I think he's coming into a really good situation in Detroit, where I don't think Detroit's going to be, an exceptional team. It's going to knock your socks off. But getting rid of Jamal Williams, who kind of usurped the backfield from DeAndre Swift, having a very pass-friendly offense that's going to really open up some run lanes. But then Jahmyr Gibbs' skill set, I think he compares very well to like Alvin Kamara. Not like an elite runner out of the backfield, but really, really good hands, a great pass catcher. Especially in PPR leagues, I think, you can probably pencil him in for 50-plus receptions if he's healthy. And he's got great playmaking ability. Watching him at Alabama last year, obviously, I'm a Hurricanes fan, so I saw him at Georgia Tech the year before that. Go Canes! So, like he's a playmaker. The dude is just a gamer, and I think he's going to be in a great situation where the Lions really aren't so certain about DeAndre Swift, and if he starts getting some touches and makes plays with catches, Jahmyr Gibbs could be a guy that he might be a league winner for you. So
DeAndre Swift in Philly now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he got traded draft night.
I completely missed that. So
and Ben Johnson turned down head coaching opportunities and is going to be back as offense coordinator. So Jahmyr Gibbs is a big time buy.
They can't keep getting away with this.
Fucking Howie Roseman, man. As a Giants fan, it just kills me every single year.
You're welcome.
The Philadelphia Bulldogs.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Bulldogs, exactly.
I'm so glad you guys gave Danny Dimes such a great contract too.
I'm not worried about that contract because it doesn't hamper them long term, and they can still, if they flame out this year, they could easily draft a quarterback in the first round, and they can get out of that contract after 2 years.
He says that, but I feel like I remember an episode of this podcast last season where Q had to convince himself mid-season, like, do I want Danny Dimes to fail or succeed? And I feel like you were at a crossroads of like,
he was a man in crisis. Yes,
because I liked CJ Stroud a lot. I liked a lot of the quarterbacks in this class. I felt like it would have been better to kind of start fresh, especially Anthony Richardson, like who I'm just a huge buy on. That would have been nice, but like halfway through the year, I'm like, Brian, like I have to trust that I don't know football. I know less football than Brian Dable does, right? Yeah. I know less football than Joe Shane does. So if they're looking at Daniel Jones's performance and they're like, this is what he's worth, until they prove me otherwise, I have to trust them.
Yeah. Good thing you guys upgraded at receiver, right?
You know what though? Don't really need like an elite receiver. I actually think Daniel Jones thrives better without an elite receiver.
This is Stockholm syndrome.
It's not. Syndrome. It's honestly like I think if you gave him like I don't think he would know what to do with a Devontae Adams. Like and that's more of a diss to Daniel Jones than anything. I just think he's better when he's working with like more scrappy guys. And like honestly,
can we get somebody that sucks in here?
Wait, so can I just
I'm better when I play with people who suck.
By the way, Daniel Jones.
It's not suck. There is a diva mentality to top tier receivers, and it can put a strain. Derek Carr obviously got Devontae Adams this year, and the Raiders were garbage, and he had his worst season. You could argue that when he had like guys that he was the alpha to, he played better.
So I'd like to point out that Daniel Jones is a subscriber to our YouTube channel. Thanks for the subscription, Daniel. Much obliged. As your number one fan is just like napalming your entire lawn.
I also want to point out, if you flesh out Isaiah Hodgins' numbers out of a 17-game season,
they are fantastic.
They're fantastic. And then Paris Campbell, who I always thought was kind of wasting his time in Indianapolis. Jalen Hyatt kid has like burner ability. It's a lot of question marks, but it's like they're not scrubs by any.
So are you one of the Giants fans that is convinced yourself that Paris Campbell's the next Debo?
No,
That's what a
no,
lot of
no.
the Giants fans on Twitter are saying, that
I like it as
Paris
a
Campbell
lot.
is Debo.
He's a lottery ticket. That's all he is. He's a former high round pick from Ohio State at receiver that I'm like has potential to be like something, a valuable contributor. But yeah, if anybody, there's only one Debo Samuel. His name's Debo Samuel. Like that's that's how it goes. So, but can you use him in that same vein as like an option like that? That's like 10th of the talent, sure. But like, no, he's not. There are a lot of delusional Giants fans will tell you that. I'm not expecting Daniel Jones to have this 30 touchdown season, but do I think that he could play well enough to get them into the playoffs like they did last year? Absolutely. It's not impossible. Schedule's tougher though. That's for sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Who else? Let's move on to some of the quarterbacks that are in this draft that are now with teams. Obviously, as some are better than others, but who do you all think, from your opinions, who are going to be impact players day one versus the guys that you're going to need to put some time into to wait? I'm speaking specifically of like, what is the Anthony Richardsons of the world versus the Will Levises of the world? Do you think these guys are going to be worth drafting, first round? Are they going to be worth drafting at all? Or are they going to be guys who just pick up and hope you get something out of them?
I think when you're talking about the rookie quarterbacks, as far as like guys who have the potential to actually be like viable starters this year, unless you can get like CJ Stroud, I don't think you're going to have like a viable starter. I think Anthony Richardson has some very high like Justin Fields-esque upside this season because of his running ability.
Mm-hmm.
If you're asking him to be an actual NFL quarterback that needs to go out and win games, that's probably not going to be him this year. But from a fantasy perspective, he's got 1,000-yard, 10 touchdown potential as a runner, and if you can add 2,500 yards passing, 15 rushing touchdowns or 15 passing touchdowns, and keep the interceptions down, that's what you need from a fantasy quarterback. If you're asking him to go out and win you the AFC South, I don't think he's going to be doing that this year. But we'll see. But I think unless you can get your hands on him, I don't think there's really another quarterback that's worth drafting and keeping on your roster until you see like reason to believe.
Let's be real. Jalen Hurts can get 10 plus rushing touchdowns. Anthony Richardson should be able to do it in his sleep.
Oh yeah, I mean he's got a great situation. He's going to be in a great running situation. The Colts have a good offensive line. You hope Jonathan Taylor comes back healthy. Like this could look like an early Atlanta Falcons offense with Michael Vick when they had Vick and Work done and TJ Duckett. Like it could look like that. They're going to run the ball a lot. You'll have Jonathan Taylor taking a lot of pressure off of Anthony Richardson, and who knows, that could help his development as a passer.
You have to think too. The Colts have Shane Steichen now, who was the Eagles offensive coordinator, who really, built the offense around Jalen Hurts to make him, help him get to where he is and run that really nice RPO as well. So he's got all the tools there to and he wanted a quarterback that he could mold, and I think AR kind of fits what Shane wants to do. So it'll to see if it'll really come down to if that Colts offensive line can bounce back to, because like they were pretty abysmal last year.
Quinn Nelson too.
Yeah, they regressed pretty heavily. So if they can get back to like that all-pro level that they were at 2 years ago or 3 years ago, then I think AR's in a pretty good situation. But if they played like they did last year, he's in trouble.
I will say though, that's a pretty good division to be in if it's your rookie year though.
Right
I
now,
mean,
yeah.
You're going up against another rookie quarterback, a guy who was a high draft pick, who has had his first good year. And then, you got Ryan Tannehill there as well. There's a lot of moving pieces in that division, and probably one of the best things that's in his favor, coming from Florida to Indy, you get to play in a dome, controlled environment, and the weather is pretty good. So you're not going from Florida to Ohio or even Green Bay where shit can get real fast. mean, I think that's a team that can go like 9-7 based solely on the teams in their conference or the teams in their division. And it's not going to be a pretty 9-7. They're just going to be able to get there. And, I would imagine AR is probably going to be like 50% passing completion, a bunch of picks, probably like close on touchdowns, but just a shit ton of rushing touchdowns and a lot of yards on the ground.
Like Steve McNair type season,
Yeah.
Like he gets it done, but it doesn't look pretty, but he gets it done.
Yeah. I mean, even that first like really good year that Atlanta had, Vic was not a great passer, but they're like 10-6, and I think they beat the Packers in Lambeau.
Yeah,
just able to get it done.
I mean, Michael Vick didn't have a season where he looked great as a passer until that resurgent year in Philly.
Yeah.
That was like his first year where he looked great I'm not going to say great. He looked good as a passer. The whole offense was built around his ability to run the football. And then you have Warwick Dunn, who's a scat back, and then you had TJ Duckett, who's a power back. You could do anything. You have three guys who can run through you, over you, or around you. And that's how they built their whole offense. And I think if the Colts wanted to go that route and go heavy into the power run game, then Richardson could certainly be a viable fantasy option. I still wouldn't like him as a quarterback requiring you to win real football games, at least not this year. But that he would be my one quarterback that I would say would be worth the fantasy draft pick on. Of all the others, I would just say probably wait. It'd be kind of like a Justin Herbert thing where he wasn't the starter at first and then he just took over and lit the world on fire. But maybe that could be the case for Bryce Young. They've got a pretty solid receiving core there. They made some moves on the offensive line in free agency. So, maybe Bryce Young comes in and he gets hot early. Who knows? I think in my opinion, CJ Stroud is the best quarterback in this draft, but I think he's got the toughest situation in this draft, getting drafted by the Texans. So he's the one who, if he went just about anywhere else, if he got drafted to the Panthers, I would flip him and Bryce Young, and I'd say watch out for CJ Stroud. Maybe he's worth a 13th, 14th round pick and just stash him on your bench in case he pops. So
also Frank Reich being there also helps. In Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily about Carolina. I know that they I know that they got a bunch of guys, but some of those dudes, they don't really do anything for me because, Adam Thielen is an old man at this point, and I don't know how much he's got left in the tank. And then some of the other guys like DJ Shark, I think they traded for him last year, or
I think they acquired him this offseason because he
was on the Lions last year. Yeah.
But he's bounced around quite a bit, and I don't know if this is enough to elevate this team to where they want to be. And frankly, I know I've said this a bunch of times on this show, Bryce Young's size scares the living shit out of me. And it's not that he's short, it's because he's lean and he's a small dude. And I know you can kind of get away with a lot of that stuff in college where you can kind of just scoot past a bunch of guys at the Citadel or South Alabama, but every person in the NFL is a big dude, is a big boy. So I am a little apprehensive about what that's going to look like. Also, just Matt Corral's mental health. I think we all are just generally concerned about his well-being after some of his Instagram posts. Matt, hope you're okay. But I want to move on to not necessarily draft guys that have been drafted this year that are not going to be good. More so, who do you think is getting a lot of hype this year? Who you think is going to be a bust fantasy-wise?
I've got one if you want us to get started.
Hit me.